Greetings YouTube, Captain Machine here, back for another video, and I'm keeping my promise of trying to go through my inbox and go through every single question I've been asked by everybody and put a reply to them out there, because I'm an ignorant idiot and that's my fault. I really am sorry guys. I'm going to correct that problem. I will go through my entire inbox, find every single question, answer every single one of them, and if you send me any subsequent questions, they're also going to get answered too. And if they're small questions, as I said before, they'll get amalgamated into one video. But today's contestant is Karandraz. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Name will be in the bar down below. Who was recommended to me by the gentleman? Recommended you speak to me by the gentleman gamer. So I've let two people down because the guy who recommended him to me has also no. I think I did reply to this fella with a short message before, but a video's better, because it gets the message out. Basically, he wants to know, he's going to start collecting Delta Green, although by the time he actually got this, he probably has already bought some of it, maybe, I don't know. And he wants to know about the drive-through RPG stuff, because they've just started putting out Delta Green stuff. Whether or not he should get it, whether or not he should track down original copies, should he bother about the D20 optional rules, blah 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 blah. Okay. Right, before we get started, I'm going to raise this one point, and I've probably raised it before, and I'm probably going to raise it again, but I'm going to only mention it once today on this video. The D20 version of Call of Cthulhu sucks my balls. It is terrible. Do not play it. However, that being said, the hardback version of the Delta Green book I own has the D20 rules in it, because it was part of that second edition print line. And it doesn't take anything away from the original Delta Green book. In any case where an NPC has stats, you get two sets of stats, one in BRP, one in D20, and all the D20 weapon stats, all at the back. It's all shoved to the back of the book. You can easily ignore it. Now, it's really nice to have a hardback version of this book. It's really nice to hold. It's got a good weight to it, a good feel to it, but I don't know if it's indicative of my copy or all copies, but the text and ink quality on it is somewhat lackluster. In the case of some pages, it is a little bit faded. It's not unreadable. It's not difficult to read. It's not squinty eyes difficult to read, but it's annoying as all sin, especially when you spend money on this sort of thing. So, to my understanding, there are three editions. There's the first edition, which is a softback. There's the second edition, which is the hardback with the D20 rules in it. And there's effectively the third edition, which is a second edition reprint. Also, first edition reprint, which is what you get through drive-through RPG. And I'm going to believe Pagan's publishing 100% on this by saying that it's probably worth getting your hands on. I'll explain why in a minute. If you're going to get any other supplementary books at all for Delta Green, the only one I can recommend hands down is Countdown. Countdown for me is the best RPG book ever written. Any supplementary book, I mean in terms of, it's got no mechanics in it, so you can't say that it's a core rule book, obviously. But in terms of the background and the story it tells and the adventures it has in the back and all the rest of that doodads, it is the best book, hands down. And I highly, highly recommend it to anybody, because it's a great way to get a good feel for the universe they've created. It expands it in such a massive way. It gives you the GRU, it gives you Pisces, which is the Russian and the British equivalent of Delta Green, respectively. And it's not just a case of they are Delta Green but with Russian or British skins. They are incredibly different creatures with incredibly different motivations, organisational structures and goals, and it's fascinating, really fascinating. And I've probably mentioned in a previous review how that and other organisations mentioned in the back can be used as both allies and enemies depending on how you want to look at it. But I highly do recommend it, if only for the appendices at the back, which just has a massive listing of all the governmental departments you might possibly want to know, not only in the US but across the world as well. And also occupational skills for those groups, so you can obviously play them if you want to do so. So yes, I highly, 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 highly recommend Countdown. However, Countdown is really hard to find. It is really expensive. I was super lucky that I found a RPG shop in London somewhere who had a copy going for like 20 odd quid, and I got them to send it out to me. And this is back when it was going for silly monies on eBay, so I'm not sure if they knew what they had on their hands, or they just were not or they were morally obliged not to sell their own stock on eBay for a bigger profit. I'm not quite sure how you want to look at that. Some stores do that on a regular basis. Others don't seem to mind. Others don't seem morally opposed to it. It's a very interesting grey area. However, if you do want to get your hands on it, you have two choices. You can buy the original, which is going to cost you a fortune, or you can buy it from RPG, which goes back to the original question: is it worth getting it from a drive-through RPG? Now, Pagan Publishing have described it that they sent original pristine copies to drive-through RPG, who in turn have destroyed those books. They've completely devastated the spines and completely tore them out to the point that they have every single page on it, and it's as a single piece of paper by itself, with no guff or anything like that on it, and they've scanned every single piece of paper in. And what they've done is where there's text on it, well, there's a massive chunk of text on every single page. Rather than just be a photocopy or a scan of the text, what they've done is they've digitized it. So the text is now editable, it's searchable. So if you're looking for Hasta, for example, you can type in Hasta and it'll bring up every single reference where that word is mentioned. And you can also highlight it. And you can do anything else you would do with normal text documents in a PDF format. And I will believe what Pagan Publishing tell me 100% that it's actually just as good, if not better. I haven't actually seen a copy of it myself in that particular format. I've never had any reason to rebuy the products. I still have the originals, obviously. But unless you're a collector, and I'm starting to drift out of the idea of calling myself a collector, you should not burn your money on that at all. You should just go to a drive-through RPG, pick up their versions, because it's probably going to cost you a lot less than getting scalped over the internet. As for the other two books, there's Eyes Only and Target's Opportunity. If you want to complete your collection, it's actually really easy to complete it. Just pick up both those books. They should be relatively easy to find. They have only been in print for a few years. Eyes Only, out of the two, is in my opinion the weaker, because it's just basically a reprint full of chat books. Some of the chat books were okay. The one about the fun guy from Yuggoth and the Grey Associates was actually kind of interesting, but the other two kind of didn't wow me to any particular degree. Target's Opportunity is an insanely good book. It's not on countdown levels of awesomeness because it lacks adventures in the back, but it seems, in my opinion, to hint, especially in the last chapter about the cultist transcendence, to hint at some global campaign, some global Mask Nyarlathotep-esque campaign you can play via the Delta Green universe with an organisation which is so far and so vastly spanning that you can spend multiple adventures fighting the different branches of the organisation before you realise that all these branches are connected, and then you go after the head of the beast. That's a campaign I'd love to run in the future. I don't know if I'm going to get the chance. I hope I do, and if I do, I will let you guys know about it. I will post all my notes and everything on the internet. I'll get you all guys involved, because it would be an amazing adventure to take part in. So if you're going to buy one book, obviously buy the original, and I probably would recommend getting the drive-through RPG version, unless you can find a cheaper version of the original. If the D20 version bothers you, I mean really bothers you, like offends you morally, then obviously don't pick that up. If you're going to buy 2 books, then get Countdown and the original rulebook. If you're going to get 3 books, then get Target's Opportunity, and of course if you want to complete your collection, get Eyes Only. Hopefully that's going to answer your question of whether or not you should or should not get additional books. You don't need them. If you're going to set it in the US, you don't need anything past the original book. If you're going to set it anywhere else in the world, you don't need anything past Countdown, with the possible exception of Canada, because Canada has its own organisation which is revealed in Target's Opportunity. Unless you want to, of course, just drift past Canada completely, that's entirely up to you. But generally speaking, you only need 1 or 2 books to run Delta Green, and that's assuming, of course, you already have the call-through rulebook, because you kind of going to need it. It's not, the rules are not in any of these books, just the differences. Okay, guys, thanks for your time.